everyone, and welcome to Dev Tricks and Secrets. Today we're going to be taking a look at 20 of them across the zombies maps of Black Ops 1, stretching all the way from Kino to Moon. This series is really just a way to celebrate the development of these maps, and if you enjoy any of it, then consider leaving a like down below. It helps me out a ton, and of course, make sure you're subscribed so you can come back for more. Without further ado, let's get into it.
I think we need to do something about the power.
For our first dev secret here in Kino if we no-clip our way into the power room, of course, before the power is turned on, the projector screen has not come down yet. But what we can find is if we go on up through the roof, it still is here, stored above the theater, quite literally outside of the building, even fit with the ropes that make it look like it's hanging from the ceiling. It does make a lot of sense that this is the way that it works, however, it is important to note that this is not the case for everything, such as this curtain here. It seems the curtain animation quite literally crumples the texture, changing the shape of the model in lieu of replacing it with a new one or storing part of it outside the map. For our next dev secret, it's about the Perk machines. Or I suppose specifically the Perk bottles themselves. Because right here in the spawn of Kino if we take a look inside the bar, we can find some of these Perk bottles. Right here being Quick Revive Soda, or just Revive Soda, and right here being Double Tap Root Beer. However, the other two Perk names are a little bit different, as we normally call Juggernog Juggernog. We'll see here that it's quite literally just called Juggernog Soda, just like the name of the perk in the multiplayer of World at War. And the same sort of thing can be said about Speed Cola, where it's called Sleight of Hand Soda on the bottle. Although I don't think anyone in their right mind would call it that.
Speed Cola, speed up your life!
And for our last dev secret here of Kino it is about the perks again. Specifically the models this time for the machines, which for the most part don't have much of an interior. In fact, other than Mule Kick and Speed Cola, it doesn't seem like any of them really have any interior at all. But one thing that is really cool is something that's inside of the Juggernog machine, which, although the machine doesn't have an interior, it does have a little secret texture hidden behind this front plate that most people probably would never be able to see, a secret Juggernog symbol, hidden out of sight that I never knew was there.
Major systems offline.
For our first dev secret here on 5, we head on outside of the map, we can find a door that's labeled To River Entrance. And if we go inside of it, we can find that there is a little hidden room here. However, there's not much else other than that. Well, the Zombies Map 5, of course, was taken from a campaign mission, USDD, where you as Alex Mason make your way into the Pentagon for a meeting with the president. And if we use a little bit of no-clip here on this mission, of course we can find the entirety of the Map 5, however without the elevator to the basement. And of course the entirety of the river entrance is constructed in this mission as you walk right through it. And it's really cool to imagine what this would have been like to have zombies in here, as there's even areas like this that would have made a great window location. But moving on back to 5 for our next dev secret, this one is about Speed Cola yet again. Although a little bit different than the last time, because behind the Speed Cola machine is an empty, unused room, looking a lot like a potential window location that I guess was taken out, and instead, the Speed Cola machine was placed in front of it. It's my belief that this section of the wall right here where the picture is was originally going to be a window location, and it sort of makes sense coming inside of here and seeing some of the textures. It seems that the developers either thought that that would be too many windows here in this hallway, or perhaps that the Speed Cola machine just needed a place to be, and this was the spot for it. I do have an alternate theory as well that's a little bit more fringe, and that is that originally the elevator wasn't supposed to work. And instead, this right here was going to be one of the ways to get down to the war room, as there is invisible stairs here that do have collision, although there's not a lot of textures going on. But it could have led you right on down to the war room, just like that, without the need of an elevator. And of course, if that was the case, there would be a need for another window location, and where would that window location be? Well, right here, where zombies could spawn back out here around the corner, and make their way to the window. And for our next dev secret, we're heading on down to the basement, where there are many teleporters scattered around down here. But one thing I never noticed about the teleporters back in the day is all of these ones down in the basement are broken. Their models are physically different than 3 other ones that aren't broken. such as this one in the basement, right in the power room. But of course, it's not just their model that's different, as they function differently as well, and they teleport you randomly to different teleporters around the basement. And this is not the case about the working teleporters, the ones that don't look broken. These will always teleport you to one of the other working teleporters. Well, except for one exception. For our next dev secret, it's about the Pentagon Thief, who those who played 5 know very well for stealing your weapons. This guy can come, as far as I know, any round after you turn on the power, even if none of the doors on the map are open. And if you haven't bought a gun like I have here, he can take your spawn pistol, leaving you with absolutely nothing in your hands for the first time in a zombies map. You can run at him helpless with nothing to shoot him with. Although if you do somehow catch up to him, you can kill him by knifing him a whole lot. And since the lunge sort of keeps you right behind him, it's actually pretty effective.
Attention. Containment failure. System monitoring
this
will
works.
remain on alert status.
And for our next dev secret, okay, wait, the teleporter's not working. 1 second, guys. Let me just fix it real quick. And for our next dev secret, we're heading on in to Dead Ops Arcade. Something that I absolutely loved in this game, although I didn't play it a ton. It was a really cool little refresher and was always just a fun thing to play. And as it turns out, we can no-clip in this as well, and see some really interesting details about how Dead Ops Arcade works. As it turns out, although I suppose it sort of makes sense, all of the individual little Dead Ops Arcade maps are on one big map altogether. They're side by side, mostly loaded out until you get over to them, where they pop into existence. And some of these have some pretty cool details to them, such as this building that has some rooms that you would probably never knew existed. And this one here, which is based off the map grid, and has a building here that's almost identical to the one in the multiplayer. If we go inside of it, we can see it doesn't have an interior, however, it still has the exact same locations for doors. It seems like it's quite literally just a scaled down version of that building. There's also some really weird details such as this, 4 turrets just hidden outside of the map that you never get to see. And in the middle of all these maps, there's this one, which looks a lot like Shangri-La. Although at the time that you could play this, Shangri-La of course hadn't come out yet, but it even has some statues from the map, as well as a very temple-like structure. But not only this, it also has some random models here in the middle that don't make a lot of sense, and even one of them floating off of the ground. If we exit the no-clip camera here, we can see that it doesn't actually load in the map. It looks like we're just floating on nothing. And I think this is because this is not an actual playable space, even though it has some really cool details, like these skulls here lit up with green lights. I find this really cool, so I'm gonna take a sip of the coffee. Because, of course, I have my coffee with me here this morning, and I hope wherever you are, whatever time you're watching this, you're enjoying yourself. Because I absolutely love Black Ops 1 Zombies.
Main power online. Auxiliary power deactivated. Rocket approaching test position.
This game truly cemented my love for zombies. And although I did play World at War before it, being a little bit older and being there for the launch of the game made this one really special for me. And not to mention, Zombies was in an experimental phase still, adding some kind of weird mechanics like PhD Flopper that were really cool. And for Ascension, playing around with different ways to make it to Pack-a-Punch, where here you have to launch a rocket to be able to use the machine.
The inflation is killing me.
So if you're enjoying this as much as me, consider leaving a like down below, it helps me out a ton, and of course make sure to subscribe so you can come back for more. But without further ado, for our next dev secret, we're gonna fly on into the junkyard, where at the very back, near the Lunar lander, we can find what looks like part of a Der Riese teleporter. Funny enough, the exact same model as the one that you can find in the basement on 5, a map set in America, and this one being set in Soviet Russia. This not only has storyline implications, but also hints at the real-life history of what happened after World War II, where Soviet Russia and the rest of the West split the territories that Germany had conquered. And here in Zombies, it seems that they also split the research equipment that was found at the Der Riese facility. And that would make a lot of sense, considering that it's in Berlin, and something very similar happened in real life. For our next dev secret, let's go ahead and hop on the Lunar Lander, which normally has this little fence that pops up around you and gives you the feeling that it's keeping you in. And with a little bit of no clip, we can see where this fence goes. It quite literally just makes its way underneath the map and is stored underneath the Lunar Lander, ready to be used whenever you end up calling it in. Which, I definitely just glitched out the Lunar Lander. Which brings us to our next dev secret. As it turns out, if you don't have the doors open to the Lunar Lander pad that it's trying to go to, it will quite literally just glitch out and freeze in place, not knowing what destination to choose. And even if we fly on down and by the door, the Lunar Lander is still stuck in place. It seems like once this glitch happens, there is quite literally nothing that can be done about it. The game is basically soft locked, as I can't even leave no clip because it will instantly teleport me back to the Lunar Lander. Thankfully though, we don't have to deal with that, and we can head on over to the Call of the Dead for our next dev secret, where right off the start, underneath the map, we can find George Romero. And as it turns out, he doesn't spawn just underneath the water, but quite literally underneath the texture that is the ground. In order to make it look like he's rising out of the water, they had to also make him rise out of the ground, as his model is quite a bit larger than the depth of the water. This one, although sort of simple, I find quite cool. For our next dev secret, it's about the size of Call of the Dead, which at first glance, it's a pretty large map, right? You have a pretty large playable space stretching all the way from the boat to the docks on the other side of the lighthouse. But one thing that's not obvious while playing the map is just how large the water section outside of the map is. Which if we fly our way all the way to the edge of the water, and it takes a minute even on full speed, we can barely see the playable space all the way back there as just a little white dot. It is insane just how large this area is. And in all honesty, there's really no need for the water to be this large. Because although you can see pretty far from the lighthouse, the map normally has a whole bunch of fog. And there's absolutely no way that you can see to the edge of the water. Even if they decided to cut it off pretty short, I don't think you'd ever notice. And way out in this fog is our next dev secret. A little dev cube hidden out here that I don't exactly know what its function is, but I would imagine probably some part of the Easter egg, as typically these are used for changing the map in some sort of way, sometimes to cause destruction or perhaps start a cutscene. For all we know, this might actually be responsible for the George Romero cutscenes that we see at the start and the end of the map. Or perhaps it's responsible for spawning the submarine during the Easter egg. I don't exactly know. But it is really cool to see it out here, just hidden all the way out in the water behind the ship. And it really does show that the developers didn't think you'd see this far out. So again, why is the water so large? I don't know. And for our next dev secret, it's about the ship, or I suppose the inspiration for the map Call of the Dead. As I'm sure many of you know, a lot of the zombies maps are based off of campaign missions. And although Call of the Dead doesn't exactly look like a lot of campaign missions, as it turns out, it is based off of one. Specifically one called Project Nova, where you're back in time playing as Reznov alongside Dmitri from World at War.
Victor, it is time.
Yes, Dmitri. Time to hunt down the last remnants of the fascist Reich.
And you get to see a deal between a Nazi scientist and some Soviet party members, as well as experience a ship that blows up, which is stored right here outside of the map as its separate little set piece. And it's really hard to not say that that is what they drew inspiration from, although the ship has certainly changed significantly since that, as it has a lot more details and of course interiors where there is none in the campaign. Not to mention things like the front of the ship that looks extremely different than it does in that mission, but the break in the ship is very similar, and not to mention the setting being somewhere that's very cold with a whole lot of snow, matches very well with Call of the Dead. And for our next dev secret, instead of teleporters on Shangri-La, we have geysers that allow us to move a little bit quicker around the map than we normally would be able to. And I suppose since the size of Shangri-La really isn't that large horizontally and it's a little bit more of a vertical map, this kind of thing makes a lot of sense. However, if we do fly underneath the map, we can find 4 teleporter boxes, as if Shangri-La was supposed to have a teleportation system at some point. Or it could be the case for a Black Ops 1 Zombies map, these just need to be somewhere in order for the map to function, even if you don't end up using them. Nevertheless, it is really cool to see. There's 4 of them out here, of course, 1 for each one of the players, as well as a random brush that looks like it's textured with wood. I have absolutely no idea why that's there, but then again, I also don't know why the teleporter boxes are there, so kinda cool to see that it is. For our next dev secret, it's about the monkeys, which, as I'm sure you all know, are programmed to steal your power-ups. They run on over, grab it, and then head towards the Pack-a-Punch Temple, making their way up the stairs where they hop on top of the machine, and then through a crack in the wall, into the temple, where you never see them again. And using a bit of no-clip, we can see exactly what happens to the monkey. After it jumps through the crack, it lands on the other side of the Richtofen Shrine, and then instantly despawns right before our eyes. It doesn't run anywhere, which is what I always thought it would do. It seems like it's almost sort of donating it to the focusing stone, or the shrine, I suppose, that's right there, as if it's giving it some sort of power that it doesn't already have. But for our next dev secret, we need to head on over to Moon. Normally on the map Moon, there is a fence that comes up in front of the Pack-a-Punch that prevents you from using it back-to-back or before you turn on power. But of course, with a little bit of no-clip, we can bypass this and use it anyway. It turns out that it does function normally. Although, if you use it too quickly, it will sort of glitch out the game a bit, where coming back to Area 51 too early will result in some really weird stuff going on with the fence that surrounds the teleporter. Part of it is there, while the other part of it is underneath the ground, seemingly stuck down here, or I suppose stored down here before it raises up into its normal position. Something that you would never normally be able to see. But something even weirder happens if you fly back to Area 51 without using the teleporter. First of all, it'll result in round-based zombies at Area 51, which is a really cool thing. You can play this just like you would normal zombies, as if Area 51 was a survival map. But not only this, if you do the process the other way around, it will give you an infinite round 1, where the zombies just keep on coming as if it was Area 51, although they act like normal round 1 zombies, with normal round 1 health. All of them are just one-knife kills. And from my testing, there really isn't an easy way to fix this either. I'm pretty sure the game is just stuck spawning zombies over and over again as if it was Area 51 for a round 1 zombies experience that will never end. But that is it for me, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did, consider leaving a like down below. It helps me out a ton, and of course, make sure you're subscribed so you can come back for more. Black Ops 1 is one of my favorite Call of Duties of all time, and I love being able to explore outside of these maps and see those little dev tricks and secrets left behind by the developers. How they made these maps happen, how they made them function, and also how they made them in general. The layouts and the hidden things you never get to see is always awesome to discover. And if you want to watch more of my content, you can click one of the videos on your screen right now, but if not, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Stay awesome, and peace out.